Can I take Aston Villa from top 4 challenges to Champions League winners in Football Manager 2024? Well, it's not going to be easy, but I'm going to take on the challenge. Villa have history, but in the modern game, they're underdogs in Europe. Their recent rise under Unai Emery has built a strong squad and a tactical foundation, but to compete with the very best, you need more than that. This isn't just about short-term success, it's about making Villa a force for years to come. Welcome to the Aston Villa Rebuild, where I'm looking to bring the glory days back and put Villa amongst the European elite. But first off, we need to secure European football because I'm using an updated database, and Aston Villa aren't actually doing that well in the Premier League this season. They sit in this database in 10th place as of the 26th of February with 13 games to go. European football is in reach, but it is not guaranteed, which is surprising considering how good Villa have done in real life in the Champions League. Now, obviously, in this simulation, we are, of course, in the Conference League, the FA Cup, and we actually got to the final of the Carabao Cup. So I'm hoping we can probably win the Conference League as a minimum and secure Europa League football for our first full season in charge. Now, Villa have gone into a 4-2-3-1 system recently under Unai Emery due to a couple of absolutely fantastic signings. Number one being Marcus Rashford on loan from Manchester United with that £40 million buyback. My goal in this rebuild is to bring him and Marco Asensio back to the club because both of them have been unreal signings. Asensio probably more so than Marcus Rashford. This guy has been unbelievable and really surprising how good he has taken to this Aston Villa side. Now, he has got a ridiculously high value and so has Marcus Rashford, so potentially we might have to do a little bit of dodginess to get them into the side, but I do want to carry on this rebuild with them two players as they are kind of the reason that Aston Villa are doing so well right now and are kind of the reason I wanted to do this rebuild. But of course, there is a lot of other superstars. Morgan Rogers being one at 21 years of age has really come into his own this season at Villa, is going to be now capped for the England national team in the next few months, I imagine, as well, and has been absolutely fantastic. The same goes for this man, Jacob Ramsey, in the cam role. Elite dribbling and bravery, consistent, likes big matches, just 22 years of age. Ollie Watkins, of course, is our bagsman up top. Kamara in DM would, of course, get lots of minutes. Certainly not Den Donker. It will either be Tielemans, it'll either be Ross Barkley, or it will be captain John McGinn. I do want to try and get John McGinn a Champions League trophy with Aston Villa. I think that would be quite a nice thing to do because he is the captain and he is absolutely fantastic as well. At left back, Ian Maatsen, recently signed from Chelsea, is brilliant. Right back, currently sitting at Matty Cash. Now, of course, in real life, we have seen the likes of Axel Disasi go into that role as well, but I'm not too sure if he's going to make it here at Villa for me, even though he's been pretty decent in real life. Konsa and Pau Torres are our two centre-backs. And of course, World Cup winner Emiliano Martinez is our goalkeeper. Never really seen him become that good on FM, so it'll be interesting to see how much we can get out of him. Now, our goal for the first half, or for the first start of this rebuild, in the middle of this first season, is to simply get into European football, Europa League or Champions League, at a minimum, should be what we're expecting, especially considering how good this guy is on FM. Now, the tactic we have cooked up for this rebuild isn't an exact Unai Emery tactic, but it is inspired by him, and we are looking to get the best out of our new player, Marcus Rashford. Whether it's off the left wing or the right wing, Rashford in the second half of this season refound the form that he so needed after leaving Manchester United. But we didn't lose the sight of our star players as well. Watkins and Ramsey linking up to grab a third here against Fulham and a fourth and final goal as well. An unlucky own goal for Mr. Calvin Bassey in the end after a ball whipped in from Ross Barkley. Showed just how dominating this Aston Villa side can be. A convincing 4-0 victory, 58% possession and 17 shots. But sadly in Europe, we also showed just how fragile it is to become a top Premier League side. Breaking into that top 6, you need consistent European football, and losing in the round of 16 to Ajax in the Conference League was not ideal, especially given Champions League in real life, they're sitting in the quarterfinals. But lucky enough for us, we did have a really good second half of this season as we finished up in 6th place and secured that Europa League football on 66 points. A really good second half of the season is exactly what we needed, and we finished off with 4 victories in a row, 4-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. Winning every single game without conceding a single one, which is absolutely brilliant to see. And there was a clear player, Marcus Rashford. What a player this is on FM. Now, obviously, this guy in real life can still become probably a Premier League legend. He is fantastic. I'm a Manchester United fan, as you can tell. I am a big fan of Marcus Rashford, but he needs to leave Manchester United for himself. Not even for the club, because, I mean, at this point, are we even good enough for someone like Marcus Rashford? This guy, when he's on his best form, is one of the most enjoyable players to watch. I've got every single Rashford top at Manchester United, other than this season's, because I thought he was going to come on to become a club legend, and I still think he could be one of the best players in the Premier League, potentially in the world, maybe a little bit too far, depending on what happens. But obviously, this is part of the reason we are doing this Aston Villa rebuild, so I am going to trigger that £40 million release clause that we have got, thanks to the loan fee, which we will be picking up. And the other signing in Marco Asensio, while he didn't absolutely cook on FM like he is in real life, I still want to bring him to the club. 3 assists in 17 games isn't outrageous, but maybe a slight tactical tweak can get him a little bit more involved. Considering these stats are just from the second half of the season, 7 goals from John McGinn is incredibly impressive. The same goes for Jacob Ramsey in that cam role as well. And interesting enough, a little bit of a fall off for Ollie Watkins. Just 5 goals and 4 assists, and something to certainly note. Another January signing in Doniel Marlon grabbed just 3 goals in 1 start and 9 off the bench, and Leon Bailey also just the 3 goals. And Morgan Rogers was certainly more of a rotation player. It's going to be difficult for him. He's now up against Rashford, Asensio, Ramsey. He's really got to progress as a player and make one of them positions his own. But over the rebuild, I want to make sure that is the case. As mentioned in this rebuild, we do want to win a Champions League with Villa. Let me know in the comments down below how many seasons you think it's going to take to turn this side into you. If you guys can do me a massive favour and hit that subscribe button as well. I'm looking to get to 15k subscribers by July. And I think that is possible with your guys' support. On average, around 70% of the people that watch these rebuilds are not subscribed. So if you've watched more than one of these rebuilds, if you've watched 2 or 3 and you like what you see, smash that subscribe button because it will help me out massively, and let's push to 15k. Now, I have brought back Marcus Rashford to the club for that £40 million, but I've got to be honest, I had to use the in-game editor. Now, that is the only time, well, this and Asensio are the only times I'm going to use it. I have to use it because the reason I want to do this rebuild is get the best out of him and Asensio at Villa. Neither of them wanted to talk in terms of contracts. I managed to have the finances for it. Villa are quite rich, believe it or not. Sadly, though, just contract-wise, they didn't want to talk. Now, I've got him on a deal, 240k. I've not really scummed it. I've spent the 40 million. I've just had to actually move it myself, which is frustrating because I don't like to do that and I don't do it on any other rebuild. But sadly, here with Villa, I've had to get Rashford this way, but what a player we've got. And I think there's a very good chance this happens in real life as well. And the same goes for Marco Asensio as well. Still on £115,000 a week. He cost us £30 million, which I think is about fair. Someone that PSG are probably looking to move on in the summer. He has, obviously, of course, been playing a ridiculous level in the Premier League, but I can't imagine him costing more than 30, 35, possibly £40 million. So £30 million he has been brought in for, and both him and Rashford are into the club. And from here on out, I want to go into signing just wonder kids because this Villa side is already absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to stick it now to under 21s only and see how long it takes us. And for that reason, my first signing is Yasin Özcan. Now, this actually isn't my signing. This is one that Villa have done in real life. A young Turkish left-back slash centre-back, probably more likely, signed from Kasımpaşa in Turkey. He has cost the club just £5.75 million. As mentioned, one that was pre-arranged before I joined, but looks really, really good. Next up is a player that I think would fit this Villa side fantastically, and that is Joe Scally. I think improving that right-back position is a must for Villa to become one of the top teams in European football. I do think Disasi has done really well there in real life, but he is more of a centre-back, and I think if Villa are going to go on to that next level, having 2 flying wing-backs is going to be important, and Joe Scally is the man that I've brought into the club. And finally, sticking with the Wonder Kids, we have brought in Croatian centre-back Moreno Zivkovic from Dinamo. He has 18 determination and really good defensive stats as well. So while he might not be ready for first-team football, with that elite mentality, I'm sure he's going to grow into a top player for us. Now, of course, the team hasn't changed too much because my main priorities this summer was securing the permanent deals of Marcus Rashford and Marco Asensio into the team. So the only other player that joins is Joe Scally in the first team. The rest of the team stays the same, but because the team is so young, the likes of Ramsey and Rodgers, they are going to grow, we are going to get better, and this team is destined to go to the next level. Now, of course, this season, we are in the Europa League, the FA Cup, and the Carabao Cup, but of course, also being in the Premier League. We are sitting currently just outside that top 6 in 8th place, just behind Newcastle. So us and Brighton on the same level. I personally think we're better than Newcastle. I think we're better than Spurs. I think we're better than Manchester United. So top 5 is what we are aiming for this season, and to really start putting the pressure on the big 3 teams. Now, last season, Marco Asensio didn't exactly set the world alight, but I knew there was potential in there that we had to get out. And that's exactly what we done. With 32 goal contributions this season, he was our standout performer. With 21 goals and 11 assists, the £30 million looks like an absolute bargain and looks a little bit like he's been playing in real life for Villa. 21 goals is mental, a 7.17, and he is absolutely brilliant. And he's 29 as well, so someone that you wouldn't normally sign on FM and you wouldn't normally use in a rebuild because you're never really going to sign him. You're never really going to manage PSG, and very rarely do you manage Aston Villa. So really fun to see a player like this in a rebuild, and he was absolutely superb. But for me, our actual player of the season was this man, Jacob Ramsey. With 28 goal contributions, Ramsey grabbed a 7.31 average rating, scoring 15 goals, grabbing 13 assists, and really growing into our star central attacking midfielder. He was absolutely brilliant and a really surprising talent. And the final man to touch on is, of course, Marcus Rashford with 22 goal contributions. It's not his best season ever, and based on what we saw last season, I thought he was about to grab 30 goals. In fact, he grabbed 7 in the Premier League, so a little bit of a fall off for him, but a 7.02 average rating is certainly very decent, and looking to get back into that England setup as well. Now, even with all of them star players, we wasn't quite able to win a trophy this season. Well, at least not a domestic trophy. As the quarterfinals of the Carabao, we lost to Bournemouth. And in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, we lost 3-1 to Manchester United. But in terms of the Europa League, we absolutely turned up. 7 wins out of 8 games in the league phase, topping the group. And then losing in the 119th minute of the round of 16 to KRC Genk. Despite 25 shots to their 6, we got FM'd and we didn't win the Europa League, which meant that our only chance of European football was going to come from the Premier League. And lucky enough for us, we had a fantastic season. Now, despite kicking off August with 2 losses and another loss and draw in September, the team ended up going on a fantastic run of form. Beating Manchester City 3-1 in October turned this season around. And despite the loss to Crystal Palace, we then went 4 months with just that 1 loss and were scoring an obscene amount of goals. If we were going to have a better second half of the season, there was a genuine chance that we could challenge the top 3. And well, we did lose to Chelsea on the 2nd of February, but after that, it was a fantastic run of form. Again, a whole bunch of wins until we met Brighton away from home, which was a 2-0 loss. Then drew to Fulham. But on the final day of the season, we were going in level on points with Manchester City at the top of the table, and Marcus Rashford scored against Liverpool. But thanks to City's +6 goal difference on us, they beat us to the title after beating Newcastle 1-0 away from home. We just about miss out on the Premier League table in just our, well, first real season. Obviously, we've simulated that first year, which is this season in real life. And for our first real season as Villa manager, we finished level on points with City on 84, which is a fantastic points tally for us. And obviously, City have this guy up front who's pretty good. And in fact, broken on FM, 32 goals in 27 games. We didn't even have anyone in the second place, and joint third was Marco Asensio, grabbing 16 goals. Ramsey behind Salah and Haaland, but beating the likes of Bernardo Silva is brilliant to see. And Emi Martinez as well, doing really good in a goal, coming fourth place in the clean sheets marks. But we just fell fourth, and I don't really know why that was. Ollie Watkins did have a decent season, 19 goals in 38 games. Boubacar Kamara from the DM role, grabbing 20 goal contributions as well, is great to see. Our two fullbacks, Digne and Scally, both grabbing 11 assists apiece as well. But the team just about fell short, and I don't know if it's just that little lack of consistency and having a bit of a better rotation in the side, because losing to Brighton and drawing to Fulham in the final 3 games of the season just isn't good enough, and it's a real shame that we just fell short because of them 2 games. Now the backups are strong but also very young, but there is some talent here that is going to progress. At right back, Costa Nedeljkovic is someone they've got in real life that's out on loan currently at RB Leipzig, but could be a fantastic player. Our signing of Zivkovic is progressing very well and played 11 games. In DM, Enzo Baranchea has been out on loan at Valencia, but this season progressed really nicely, scored a goal and grabbed 4 assists. And finally, of course, we are looking at Morgan Rogers. Now, he did only start 8 games, but 31 off the bench is really good. It's someone that we need in this squad, a player that can come in and do bits off the bench. Grabbing 3 assists and a goal isn't outrageous, but when tired legs come on to bring on Morgan Rogers, that's a pretty decent player. Now, I have mentioned that financially Villa are actually in a really good position, but we do need Champions League football, as last season being in the Europa League got us up to £100 million in debt, but finishing where we did and securing Champions League football has got us back in the positive and a decent transfer budget as well. Debts-wise, 50 million is nothing for a Premier League club, so we'll be absolutely fine. That's going to get cleared pretty quickly. And also the youth here at the club is really good as well. Youth facilities, training facilities, youth recruitment, all very decent and are going to be used throughout this video. But first up, we need to bring in some wonder kids to improve this side. And my first signing is Patrick Dorgu from Manchester United. Someone that's not quite worked out here in this FM universe, which is opposite to what I think is going to happen in real life. Now, Dorgu fits our left back position fantastically. He is a prime wing back on attack with great crossing, dribbling, good determination and great speed. Last season out on loan at Norwich in the Championship, really good for his progression. £27 million is what we spent on him, and I think we've got an absolute stud. Now, my second of just 3 signings is Ivory Coast centre-back Ousmane Diomande, coming in from Sporting Lisbon. He is one of the best centre-backs on FM, and again, someone I very rarely sign because of how I suppose meta he is. I often don't look to sign him, but in this rebuild, I'm looking to build a dynasty. £39.5 million what we've spent, and I think it's an absolutely fantastic piece of business. And my final signing is a bit of a risky one. It is the loan deal for Evan Ferguson. Now, last season and the season before, Ollie Watkins has done, fair to say, decent, but has not smashed it out the park. And Evan Ferguson has got a little bit under the radar in real life recently. Obviously, was a wonder kid at Brighton, has gone out on loan to West Ham in real life, and I don't think he's absolutely smashing it. Back on to Brighton in this save, didn't really play last season, and joins us on loan this season. Now, his value is ridiculous. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to bring him to the club if he has a fantastic season this year, but I can't imagine he's going to start over Watkins. And if he does, for a free loan signing, if he absolutely smashes it, it's fine, because we can go out there and bring in an absolute superstar in the next couple of seasons to replace Watkins and potentially the loan deal with Ferguson. Now, tactically, the only signings that come into the first team there are Patrick Dorgu at left back and Diomande at centre back. I'm going to click through the tactic for anyone that does want to copy this tactics. We have started to release a few tactics on this channel. I'm not sure if this is going to get its own dedicated video and the extra variations, hence why I am showing you now, because I don't think it's going to be at that sort of level. I think we're more looking to build a fantastic team. But if you do want to subscribe to the channel for tactics as well, they are here on the channel, as are the rebuild files and a few of the extra tactic variations available on the Patreon that is linked down below. You can join the extra 2,000 members that are part of the Kempi army. If you do want to join and help support as well, it is £5 a month, and that gets you access to all the extra files, the rebuilds, the extra tactics that we make here on the channel, and it helps support me massively, so that link is at the top of the description. Now, this year is a big one. We are in the Community Shield, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Champions League, and the Premier League, where we have still broken into the top 8. I say broken. We are still in the same place. We are level with Newcastle and Spurs and Chelsea now, though, in terms of our odds. Even though last season we pushed City all the way with 84 points, this season I'm looking to do the same. I want to break into that top 3 in back-to-back years. If we can get past the likes of Arsenal, Liverpool, and possibly even City, we're going to be in for good stead. Champions League, I'd love to do what we're doing in real life at the moment. Obviously, currently going into the quarterfinals after beating Bruges in the first leg. I'd guess it's the quarterfinals. And from there, I think there's a real chance Villa could go on to be a real true underdog story. It would be absolutely fantastic if they could do something amazing. I mean, even as a United fan, for someone like Rashford, I would love to see him lift the Champions League, even at Villa, just to go out there and absolutely smash it. He might even come back to United at that point because he's won the trophies. He can come back and do it with us as well. I mean, in the Championship probably. But anyway, I'm rambling. Good to win the FA Cup or Carabao Cup this year as well. So let's get on to this season. Now, this season was about showing ourselves in the European elite competition. And my God, did we do that. We finished in 5th place in the Champions League phase. 6 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss against PSG, but beating the likes of Rangers, Besiktas, Ajax, who remember we lost to over 2 legs in the round of 16 of the Conference League, battered them 4-0, beat Bayern, Cervena Svezia, and Ferencvaros. And that sent us into the round of 16, where we beat Eintracht Frankfurt 7-4 on aggregate. And a bit of a spoiler alert, Evan Ferguson grabbed 4 goals in this game, and over this season, he grabbed 13 in 32 games and was a really good loan signing. But sadly, in the quarterfinals, we matched up against last season's Premier League winners, Manchester City, and they beat us 3-1 in the first leg, and we drew 2-2 in the second leg. So we go out in the quarterfinals, but this is what I wanted. I wanted a good showing in Europe this season, for next season and potentially the year after and year after that, to really build this dynasty to the top of the Premier League and the Champions League. But that doesn't mean that I've given up on trophies, because we find ourselves in a Carabao Cup final where Evan Ferguson is the hero. He grabs an early goal in the 64th minute against Arsenal, but they do bounce back in the 80th. Timber finds Saka, cuts in from that right-hand side, as he does so often, and makes the game 1-1, sending it to extra time. Can we do the unthinkable? I think Arsenal have done the unthinkable there. They've given Watkins the ball on the edge of the box, and he scores to make it 2-1, and that was the final goal of this game. And the first trophy of the rebuild has come later than I expected, but we have won the Carabao Cup, a 2-1 victory, and our first piece of silverware is ticked off. But what if we could do the domestic double? We find ourselves in the FA Cup final as well after beating Newcastle 5-0 in the semi-finals. We matched up against Leeds United. Barrenechea scores in 16 before Ferguson scoring once again in a big game to make it 2-0, but Leeds bounce back. Jack Harrison, edge of the box, beats his man, finds the bottom corner and makes it 2-1. And I was getting a little bit nervous at that point, but the team we've built is absolutely fantastic. Onana finds Bailey on the edge of the box to find Diamande to make it 3-1. And from here, we decided to run away with this game and absolutely embarrass Leeds United. Bailey whips it in, backstick. Ollie Watkins nods it down for 4-1. And how does 5-1 in an FA Cup final sound? Patrick Dorgu down the left-hand side. An unreal ball through to Marcus Rashford. Sets it back to Morgan Rogers. And 5-1 was the final result. And Villa lift the Carabao Cup and FA Cup in the third season here, and a fantastic double of trophies this year. And that was it, because it wasn't meant to be in the Premier League this season, but I am still fairly happy. We have lost 13 points on last season's pretty ridiculous season, to be honest, dropping down to 71, but securing ourselves as the 4th best team in the Premier League. And I think it's safe to say that's where we are at the moment. We are behind Liverpool, City and Arsenal. Last season, they all sort of fell off a little bit. We capitalised, come joint top, but not joint top, second because of goal difference. But this season probably showing where we actually are. 4th place, 71 points, 22 wins, just a few too many losses. But overall, a very good season for both Jacob Ramsey and Marcus Rashford, who this year was really, really good. A 7.23 average rating, 16 goals, 8 assists, and is definitely now back in that England setup as well. That's 11 caps, I think, in the last 12 months. So really good to see Rashford back in where he belongs. Ferguson overall, 22 goals, just didn't absolutely smash it in the Premier League. Marcus Rashford, 22 and 10. Asensio, 20 and 16, 36 goal contributions for him. And like I said, someone I never really seem to use on FM. So really fun to see him doing bits. Leon Bailey, 16 goals and 8 assists. Ollie Watkins, just 12 in 13. And Ferguson did take that starting berth. Now he is worth a lot of money, 65 million in fact. Really weird that it's showing here as 13 goals in 32 games, but up here showing as 22 in 39. Don't really know why it's saying that, but very odd. Morgan Rogers, really good season, 23 goal contributions, and Jacob Ramsey, 22. So that's exactly what I wanted out of these two. Both rotating with each other, both playing a similar amount of games, and really doing bits for the squad. John McGinn as well, 18 goal contributions from DM, and Dorgu, 11 assists, and Joe Scally, 13 assists, proving to be a really good signing in that right back position. But it's time to bring in some new players and some new stars into this Villa side. I've made just 2 signings this year because we've spent big on a fantastic wonder kid centre-back in Nunzio Ngwanda, a Belgian from RSC Anderlecht, who looks really, really good and seems to be one of the newest wonder kids in the updated version of FM. And Shaquille Van Persie, who has improved massively on this recent update as well. Now I am using a transfers and wonder kids update from all over the place. Again, there's a video on the channel on how exactly you can download the settings that I use for this. There is also a link to the Patreon down below. It is free to download all of these files. I've just put them all in one place for you to download, and the upgrades on some of these wonder kids are outrageous. This guy is now capped for the Dutch national team, and for us is going to be our main striker this season, which is going to be very exciting. Asensio, Ramsey and Rashford backing him up with Kamara, McGinn, Scally, Diamande, Torres, Dorgu and Martinez in goal. It is predominantly the Aston Villa team they've got in real life. The 3 here are obviously players that are using real life. The 2 in DM, Pau Torres and Martinez as well. So 7 players are on the edge of becoming the best team in the Premier League. Adding these few wonder kids, is it the next step to make Villa Premier League champions? Well, based on our form to start this season, you'd probably say not. But one thing that is for sure is Marcus Rashford has started this season on unreal form. 2 goals in the first, a goal in the second, a goal in the third, and a goal in the fourth. Put us in a pretty poor position points-wise, but we did have a superstar goal scorer. Throughout September, we won 4-0, 4-0 and 1-0 crucially against Manchester City. Went unbeaten in October with a draw against Liverpool as well. Won 2 out of 3 in November, unbeaten in December, and unbeaten winning every game in January. I really do think the team we've built is strong enough to compete for the Premier League, and the game thinks so too. While February was rough, losses against City and Arsenal, we were beating the teams we were meant to. We beat Fulham, drew to Brighton, drew to West Ham, but then beat Liverpool, Everton, Chelsea, drew to United, beat Spurs, 6-0 against Leicester, 2-0 against Bournemouth, and a draw against Palace. But the question is, was all of them victories throughout the first half of the season, especially that crazy run in the middle, good enough to make us Premier League champions? Yes, it was. And it hasn't even our best points tally of this rebuild. We finished on 83 points, but City, Liverpool and Arsenal fell off, and we win the Premier League title with 21 wins, 8 draws, 5 losses. City on 79 points. United even getting into 3rd on 73. Liverpool in 4th on 72. And a really good season for us, and fantastic to see Villa back on top in the Premier League. Now, I actually don't know if, well, the last time Villa won it was 1981, and we're a massively dominant side in the late 1890s to 19010. We're a massive side then, and it's been a really good rise in real life as well. It was really sad to see Villa go down in 2016, come back up. Obviously, had the likes of Jack Grealish, but recently I've built a really strong foundation and are really breaking into the top 6 in the Premier League. And I do think they're on a really good trajectory as well to make that happen. Now, Villa also won the Champions League in real life back in 1982. Off the top of my head, that could be wrong, but I think that's right based on my research prior to doing this video. So we are looking to make it so we win that championship for the first time in over 40 seasons. Now, doing the Premier League and Champions League double was too much for us this season. We in fact lost on penalties to Eintracht Frankfurt in the run of 16, which is really frustrating given we are Premier League champions, but maybe getting knocked out here gave us that extra little bit of run to go on to have a fantastic end of the season and eventually win the Premier League. So we're not going to blame it too much, but a little bit disappointing. What's also disappointing is our lack of trophies this season other than the Premier League, which I suppose is the big one. We didn't win the Carabao Cup, losing to United in the final thanks for a header from Xerxes, and lost in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup as well. So a little bit sad with that one, but I'm sure we will survive as Premier League champions. And the two players that I wanted to bring in to do this rebuild, Rashford and Asensio, are both our best players with goal scoring as well. 26 for Rashford, 20 for Asensio. The exact same stat line, I believe, as last season with 36 goal contributions. But the rest of the team fell off a little bit. Jacob Ramsey, 14 and 9. Rodgers, 9 and 10. And Shaquille Van Persie, I locked it up front, scored 12 goals and got 4 assists all season. That is not enough to be my starting striker, so I'm looking elsewhere once again. Ollie Watkins wants to leave, of course, as sort of expected, but we'll have to move on from that. John McGinn's goals dropped off a little bit, and overall, the whole team dropped off, but also the Premier League did, and we won the title. So I don't know how angry I can be, but I certainly want to improve on the scenario we are in. While we've obviously won the Premier League, we can do a lot better. Debts-wise, we now just have the transfer debt on the club, no net debt, and we are back in the positive with £72 million to spend. So let's go bring in one of the best strikers the world may ever see, or he could be an absolute flop. A bit like Vitor Roque. No slander to Vitor, by the way. He's actually the player I collect most in terms of cards. Although, disappointing to see him go back to Brazil. But I can't see that happening with this guy. Endrick is an absolute baller. He is fantastic and looks really good now in FM as well. Has progressed decently over the last few seasons at Real Madrid. Hasn't broken any goal scoring records. In fact, has only scored 5 in 2 seasons, but has shown promise with a 7.27 across 17 games. Last season, a little bit of a dip. We spent £70 million to bring him to Aston Villa, and I do think he is the player to potentially make us a Champions League challengers. My other signing is from his rivals club in Barcelona. It's Pau Prim. He is a very good ball-playing defensive midfielder, and I just think that's something we lack at the club with Kamara, John McGinn, and Amadou Onana as well. I don't think we have a real creative outlet in DM, so just 21 years of age. I think Prim is a fantastic signing. Now, of course, the only player that comes into this side is Endrick. That is all my signings, because we are using Rodgers, Ramsey, and Rashford, while also keeping, of course, Asensio, Bailey, Shaquille Van Persie, Baranchea and Prim in that DM role. I mean, Baranchea has progressed really nicely. His stats are growing a lot, but still more of that ball winner, that aggressive DM rather than that complete and utter ball player. Ian Matson, Nguanda, Nedjetkovic, Joe Gwaki are the backups in the defence as well. And this season, I think we can go absolutely mental. I am looking for a Premier League trophy soon. We are really breaking in now to even the media predicting us to be a very good side. And Champions League, we just need to win it. Going back to back in the Premier League would be great, but my main goal, of course, now is to win this Champions League and really turn this Villa side into a dynasty. Now, as mentioned, my main target is the Champions League, but we finished down in 13th place. For the first time being in this competition, we've not gone straight through the league phase to the round of 16. Which meant we had to face up against Lille, and we beat them 3-1 on aggregate, and the second leg, a brace from Shaquille Van Persie, helped us massively. Where we then faced their league rivals PSG in the round of 16, and we absolutely cooked them. A great ball there from Marco Asensio to Endrick, making it 1-0 in this game. Asensio then with the corner ball whips it back post, and Pau Torres jumps high for 2-0 in 22, and Asensio capping it off, 2 assists and a goal for a 3-0 victory against his former side. We won 1-0 in the second leg as well and move on to the quarterfinals, where we faced Manchester United and started as hot as I've ever seen a team start in the Champions League before. Ramsey scoring in 34 seconds to make it 1-0. But don't worry, there's more. 6 minutes on the clock. Ramsey and Maatsen link it up before Endrick pokes home to make it 2-0. And Endrick wanted to put this game to bed in just 9 minutes. It was 3-0. We beat them 5-4 in aggregate in the end, but we are progressing to the semi-finals, where we are facing Endrick's old side, Real Madrid, and they've replaced him with Marcus Thuram. And instantly, this tie was set up to be a battle between Thuram and Endrick, as Thuram scored in just 6 minutes here at Villa Park to give Real Madrid the lead. But just 60 seconds later, Endrick, of course, fought back and showed the Madristas why they should have believed in him. He poked home a ball from Ramsey to make it 1-1. And we didn't see another goal until the 45th minute. Thuram and Camavinga linking up. Camavinga eventually finding that man Mbappe, who found Rodrigo, some decent players, to make it 2-1. And in the 82nd minute, we did tie the game up. Rashford gets challenged, falls to Dorgu, finds Morgan Rogers, spins his man and finds the top corner, which means we are off to the Bernabeu to see if we can progress to the Champions League final. But sadly, that wasn't going to happen. Real Madrid were just a step too far for us, as Rodrigo scored in 39 minutes and Jude Bellingham grabbed the second in the 70th. But we can be proud. We have done what we set out for at the start of this rebuild. Make Aston Villa one of the Europeans elite. We have put ourselves in that category this season. We have got into the top 4 of the Champions League effectively, which is really good. But it wasn't the best season overall. 0 trophies we walk out with in season number 5. Finishing in 4th place in the Premier League once again. Liverpool, Arsenal, United finishing above us. We are 2 points behind United, 2 points ahead of City. The points in terms of the Premier League, 82, 79, 60, 76, 74 and 72, all being really tight. But it wasn't enough. We were 8 points off the title. We got knocked out in the 3rd round of the FA Cup and 4th round of the Carabao Cup, and we hadn't quite taken that leap that I hoped we would. Rashford once again putting himself down as a Villa legend at this point. 24 goals and 6 assists. Endrick 23 and 2 was really good. Ramsey 15 and 15, and Rogers 15 and 11. Asensio at 32 has fallen off a little bit, but 25 goal contributions is still pretty damn serviceable and good to see. But we are looking to potentially take the next step, but also just let this team grow. We have got a lot of young players here that we have signed, a lot of wonder kids that are becoming top tier talent, and our striker this season, who just grabbed 23, is only 21. And so Shaquille Van Persie, so is Ngwanda at centre-back, who played 24 games this season and is growing really, really well. His decision-making passing is really good, and being either-footed, really like him. 4 caps for Belgium already. Really good to see a player like this come into the game. But we need to make that next step. And obviously only starting wonder kids, that is difficult, but that's the whole point of the challenge of a rebuild. Now this season, I didn't really want to change the team at all, but I also wanted to still make some signings. So I have gone with backups, youngsters, and players that are going to progress when you guys pick this up on Patreon. My number 1 signing is Ingo van Dijk, a Czech centre-back who looks absolutely outrageous at 18 years of age, signed for £6 million. Ian Sabare is my next, a backup winger for us at 21 years of age. Cavan Sullivan is my next signing, playing for Philadelphia. Obviously in real life I believe moved to Manchester City, but currently still at Philadelphia, and I've signed him for £7.5 million. John Faberico is a right winger / striker who I've loaned back to his club in Colombia, signed for just £3.1 million. And finally Marlon Perez, a young right back joining the club, gone back out on loan to his club in Colombia as well. I believe that's it in terms of signings. It is, and the team hasn't changed at all. I do think this team is good enough. We lost to Real Madrid by 2 goals in the semi-finals. We're touching distance the Premier League every single season. I think it's just about putting a good run together, and this team can become champions of the world. Now, to kick things off, we have a Carabao Cup final to attend to and a victory to attend to as well. Rashford and Endrick linking up for Villa is a beautiful sight to see, making it 1-0. Joe Scally then, one of our first signings of this rebuild, and that right back position whips it in, and Rashford fires home against City to give us a 2-0 victory and tick off our first trophy of season 6. And there was a chance that a second was just around the corner as well. But we faced Chelsea in the FA Cup, who wanted to try and stop us. And they scored a great free kick to kick the game off. But luckily for us, we had some stars. Patrick Dorgu, this game played in that right wing position, showing his versatility, making it 1-1 in this. Chelsea then scored from a corner to make it 2-1. But once again, the bounce back of this team, a Rashford cross into Dorgu, seems to be something we've mastered recently. Dorgu eventually finding Endrick to make it 2-2. And we were going to grab a third as well. Rashford down the left-hand side, still got that electric pace, whips it in. Who's there? Endrick, 3-2, 115th minute, not a game over. 121st minute, Enzo Fernandez scores and sends the game to penalties, but Cole Palmer misses the first penalty. Rashford steps up for us and scores to give us the 1-goal lead, but Nkunku misses again for Chelsea. And we scored every single penalty, winning the game on penalties eventually and becoming FA Cup champions. It seems like we can't just win the Carabao or the FA Cup, we have to win both. And for the first time in this rebuild, we have officially done a domestic treble, also winning the Premier League. 80 points is what it took this season. It has been so tight. 79 for Arsenal, 75 for United, 73 for Liverpool, 73 for Chelsea, 73 for City. And we really have formed a new big six. Spurs dropping right off to 14th place. Villa are now in and amongst it. And based on our past season, I think it's safe to say we have built a bit of a dynasty already here at Villa. 2 Premier League wins in 3 seasons and a really good showing from 4th top goal scorer in the league, Marcus Rashford. 24 goals for us now and 9 assists. But something to take this current team to the next level and become one of the greatest sides in Villa's history is that all-inclusive Champions League trophy. And well, how's that for a start to it? 22 points, level with the likes of PSG and Real Madrid in the league phase. In the round of 16, we faced Shakhtar and 9-1 on aggregate. A brace from Rashford, even a goal from Kevin Sullivan and Patrick Dorgu sent us flying into the quarters, where we faced Real Madrid once again and were looking to get our revenge on last season. The quarterfinals, we didn't lose to him last time, was the semis, but Shaquille Van Persie didn't play that game, but he does play this game, and what a difference maker he was. He grabbed the first goal and grabbed the second goal as well after a great ball from Marcus Rashford, not offside, but Real Madrid are going to bounce back. Thuram knocks it down. Todibo heads over Martinez for 2-1, but how about a bit of Big Shaq? Shaquille Van Persie, what a player. We signed him for £45 million. He had a pretty mediocre season, but as our rotational striker, grabbing a hat-trick against Real Madrid is pretty impressive. So that made it 3-1 before another header from Todibo made it 3-2. But someone else that has impressed throughout this whole entire rebuild is Marcus Rashford. Picks the ball up on this left-hand side, duels past everyone, does what he used to do, and scores goals. We scored the game to finish 4-2, and in the second leg, we drew 2-2, meaning we were going on to the semi-finals, and we'd got rid of the big threats in Real Madrid. And well, for the semi-finals, it was a Liverpool side managed by Marco Rose. And we all know how overpowered that is on FM, but not overpowered enough to stop this Villa side. The first leg was a 1-1 draw, and the second a 2-0 victory, which means Villa, we're going to the Champions League final, where we are facing PSG, who have Evan Ferguson up front, who has just scored 35 goals for them. So it looks like we kick-started this guy's career, and he could be the one to stop us winning a UCL. The first goal in this game took until the 41st minute to happen. Ian Maatsen on the left-hand side turns in to Lionel Messi to score, and that was the only goal. It was 1-0. Quite anticlimactic, but Villa are Champions League winners. We have won the Premier League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, and the Champions League this season, doing a quadruple and turning Villa into a dynasty like we wanted to do from the very start. We have done it. Aston Villa, the best club in the world. The official signing of Marcus Rashford was pretty damn good. 24 goals and 9 assists in this first season. And Asensio as well, with 22 goal contributions at 33 years of age. Endrick looking to become a Villa legend as well. 25 goals in 50 games this season. Thank you so much for watching the Aston Villa Dynasty Rebuild. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, smash that like button and I'll speak to you next time.